If your brain evolved by an unguided, unintelligent process and all your thoughts are completely dictated by the laws of physics, in other words, you're a moist robot, then why should we think your thoughts are true, including those you are stating here tonight?
I appreciate the question. So let me state a couple of points. The first point is that your question raises the topic. It doesn't have the word, but it's right there behind it, the concept of determinism versus free will.
Yes.
I don't actually have a position on that, so if determinism is true, I guess you could say that I've been predetermined not yet to know if it's true, and if it's false, then I haven't made a choice about whether it's true. So,
I think you freely came to an indeterminate position.
there you go. So, but the concept of freedom versus determinism lies behind that question, and I think that that's actually a red herring. Let's say, for the sake of argument, that determinism is true, and we somehow knew it with certainty to be true. I think that actually has precisely zilch to do with the reliability of our ability to reason. That confuses the origin of a mechanism with its reliability. Whether, let me give an analogy, whether my eyes are the result of special creation by God, guided evolution by God, or unguided evolution in a completely blind and indifferent universe, they're still eyes. And their origin is irrelevant to the fact that they conduct certain information through the optic nerve to my brain.
Right, but I'm not just talking about the origin here. I think the origin creates a problem because if it's unguided, why should we trust it? I'm talking about its operation now. If there is no immaterial realm to you or me, if we're really just moist robots, why should we think anything we think is true?
Yeah, so that's, maybe I wasn't clear, that's what I was trying to address. So I don't think that the origin has anything to do with its reliability. And so even if, I'm looking at your question, even if I'm just a moist robot, then I'm a moist robot, and robots don't make mathematical mistakes. So whether I'm talking about a robot, a computer, Microsoft jokes aside about the reliability of their software, and I'm from Seattle, and in Seattle, sometimes I think people would question whether or not that kind of information did have an intelligent designer, but that's a conversation for another story, another time. I lost my train of thought. Uh-oh.
You were predetermined to do that.
Yeah, I was predetermined. Whether you're talking about computers, robots, calculators, whatever, mechanical devices, I think actually in this context, I think that would be an argument for their reliability, not their unreliability. I think, with all due respect, I think this is completely misguided and fundamentally flawed to link the two concepts. I think
why is it flawed? If only materials exist,
yeah,
and there is no mind, if we're controlled by the laws of physics, how do we have true thoughts?
So let's assume for the sake of argument that the immaterial exists, and we know with certainty that the immaterial exists.
The only way you could know is if the immaterial does exist, because if it doesn't exist, we're just moist robots.
So let's assume that let's assume that that's true. The fact that the immaterial exists, if that's a fact, does nothing to increase our confidence in the reliability of our reasoning ability. This is a complete straw man.
Oh, sure it does, because we have a mind, not just a brain.
So
just like the placebo effect shows us that the mind can affect the brain, and if the mind can affect the brain, we have free will, and if we have free will, then we can follow the evidence where it leads. We're not just slaves to the laws of physics.
Yeah, but you're confusing, so my response to that would be that you're confusing concepts. If we have free will, then yes, by definition we have free will. We can choose our beliefs. Whether or not we can choose our beliefs has precisely zilch, zero, nada to do with whether or not our beliefs are accurate.
Oh, sure it does.
Whether or not our reasoning ability is reliable.
Sure it does. If we're slaves to physics, again, how can we ascertain something to be true? If we can't follow the evidence where it leads, if we can only follow the four fundamental forces of nature, if they just drive us to a conclusion, how can we be sure that what we're believing is true?
Right. So I feel like I'm repeating myself.
All right, let's just move on.